Art is a very broad subject. Painting, music, theater, filmmaking, all of those things fall into one big category of art. And it is so big that it bleeds in all aspects of our daily life, and we can't deny it. Now, I would expect that some of you know those kind of people who are not that into art. They don't really care that much about art, and that's fine. Chances are that they just need a little bit more patience and a little bit more help to actually see rather than look at an art piece. Those people kind of remind me of that one Greek philosopher in history that was also very anti-art, and his name was Plato. Now, Plato, he was extremely against the idea of art. The first reason being that to him, fine art especially was just a man-made illusion that refers to the real life and not being the real life itself. According to Plato, everything that is considered the real life it can only be made by God. And anything that a human copies from that real life is delusional and therefore should be completely eliminated from the society. That's how extreme he was. The second reason for Plato to hate arts was its ability to connect to people on an emotional level. According to Plato, and he believed this, that logical thinking must always rule over emotional thinking. Plato feared that emotions could drag a person to do and to make irrational decisions. So, therefore, Plato feared art because it could evoke such major emotions in people. But to me, art is a home, a safe place I can always come back to whenever something bad happens in my life. It is kind of an outlet that lets me express all of my experiences and put them into something creative. And I never really realized the impact of art on our society and all of our societies. The revelation, as I like to call it, came to me about 2 years ago at 2 a.m. in the morning on an Amsterdam train station. That night I went to a Lady Gaga concert, and it was such a huge and life-changing experience to me. The vibrant colors, the crazy music, the outfits, everything was meant to convert negative experiences into something creative and share it with thousands of people. And this idea, it fascinated me. The whole night I was thinking about it. Yeah, this is the idea of how it would look like. It's a robot cafe in Tokyo, Japan, but actually the concert was just huge, and it was great for thousands of people. And that night I was thinking about the impact, such a major impact, and I knew I wanted to use my own creative power to do something that is the same. And since then I became obsessed. Whenever I would go to a foreign place, I would have to go to a museum or a gallery, because I knew if I wanted to succeed in that area, I needed to gain as much knowledge as possible. And after years of gaining that knowledge and self-reflecting, I would like to tell you the reason why artists do is important. Art lets us reflect on our own values, what we stand for in this world, and what we believe in. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder, people often say. whenever it comes to any discussion about art, or if anyone criticizes any kind of artwork. And I feel that this quote is very dangerous in our society because the discussion stops right there. Whenever people say that art is strictly subjective and it's only to a person perceiving it, that the value of an artwork is strictly up to the person, then where's the discussion? Where is the knowledge we can gain from perceiving the artwork and sharing the same experience with the other person? Now, the problem is that we can't even explain why we don't like a certain artwork. We can't explain why contemporary art is garbage and the works of the old masters like Vermeer is of pure genius. And this is where discussion is important, because if you talk to another person about an artwork that you don't quite get, it may give you a new perspective. Maybe that person saw something you overlooked. And from that discussion, you can gain knowledge not only about that art piece and not only about the environment and not about the history of it, but also about yourself, also your perception of it and your values. Another Greek philosopher called Aristotle, he was on a completely different spectrum from Plato. He believed that art is essential in our life in order to live a fully emotionally balanced life. Because if a person lacks a certain feeling or emotion a long time, he starts to crave it. And this is where art comes in helpful. For example, a businessman who lives a busy life with a strict schedule, who's busy every day, he might be attracted to something more peaceful, like a house in the countryside and a fireplace with themes of nature in it, or something more minimalistic, because that person lacks tranquility, he lacks peace and silence in his life. Or Greek artists who lived for most of their lives, ancient Greek artists that lived among mountains and nature, trees, forests, seas. They were not interested in nature at all or making any kind of artworks about that topic. They just simply didn't care because they fulfilled that need for nature. I read a lot about that in a book of Alain de Botton, Art as Therapy, where he talked about the ability of art to complete some of the emotions that we lack. Because why do some people who go to sad, dramatic movies in theaters with a box of tissues ready? Because, yeah, they lack those kind of negative emotions of loss or maybe heartbreak or anything of that sort. Because what we don't realize is that negative emotions are just as valuable as positive ones. And all emotional extremes are important in order to live a fully balanced life. This is a plan of Tate Modern suggested by Alain de Botton in his book. Here we have 5 floors: gallery of suffering, gallery of compassion, fear, love, and self-knowledge. Now, this is only a suggested plan, and what de Botton suggests is that if we just compile artworks according to their emotional value, rather according to their historical value, as in putting them according to their art movements and their time, perhaps people would find it more relatable and more interesting to go and fulfill their emotional needs. Once I also went to a museum with my parents in Germany, and they said that I would see there a very important artwork that everyone just loves, and it's worldwide famous. And it was the Sistine Madonna by Raphael. And like any Christian art, it's supposed to give you some kind of spiritual awakening and philosophical enlightenment of some sort. For me, it just didn't click. Now, technically, it is a very peaceful painting. It gives you that peace and tranquility, and this is why a lot of people love it, because of how hectic our life nowadays is. But to me, I felt like it is so carefully measured. All the colors and all the brushstrokes are in such right places that it becomes more of a mathematical study rather than real life and art. It reminds me of photorealism that came around in the 70s, where the technical value was predominant in that time, where artists could express in their paintings their technical skills. And of course, it is astounding what artists can do with their skill, but it is so lifeless to me. It becomes not interesting at all. For me, I would rather look at paintings of Jean-Michel Basquiat, which is completely different from what I just showed. His paintings are based completely on motion. They're fast, they're quick. And some of you might say, oh, that's just kids' drawings. My 5-year-old son could do it. That's nothing. And it's exactly what it is. The intention of the painter is to tell us that we shouldn't take the life so seriously, because we're all just kids at the playground in the end of the day trying to figure out what life's really about. This is a picture from the TEDxYouth website article where it talks about a creative duo that decided to make a DIY gallery in the slums of Dharavi in India. And they made it in order to showcase the pottery and the beautiful things that people made in that community. And this is an example of how art can bring people together, how it can bring the community and express its creative value and bring something new into their mundane life. The creative duo, they made the people there to recreate the things they made on the daily basis, like cricket bats. This is what they came up with. And people loved it so much. Children said that it was magic without tricks. It was so beautiful, it was so creative, it was so vibrant. And this is what art does. Art makes us really think about what values we hold, what we believe in this world. It allows us to talk to other people about those ideas. It allows to bring communities together and express experiences through something creative that we actually made. And perhaps Plato shouldn't have been so narrow-minded about this subject. And what is left for me to do is to encourage you to be a bit more curious about what art has to offer. Thank you.